Have you ever finished an online class and wondered if your students actually learned anything? Their names were in the participant list. They were present, they listened, and they watched the slides, but they hardly participated. There is a significant difference between watching a lesson and learning from it. Watching a screen is often a passive experience, similar to watching television, whereas learning requires the brain to do something with the information it receives. To bridge this gap, we use active learning, a method that requires students to participate in the process rather than just observing it. This diagram shows the friction in the current model. When a student treats a lesson like a broadcast, the information rarely moves past short-term memory. Passive watching leaves the teacher with no way to know if a concept was understood or simply ignored. Active learning is based on a simple requirement. Instead of only listening, students must perform a concrete action during the lesson. These actions can be broken down into 4 categories. We ask students to think, respond, solve, and discuss. Even a micro-action, like answering a single question, changes the student's relationship with the material. It forces them to process the information, which helps them remember it later. We can visualize this as a cognitive escalation ladder. The first rung is internal reflection, triggered by asking short questions throughout the lesson. Questions like, "What do you think will happen next?" or "Which option looks correct?" These small prompts bring students back into the learning process. They stop watching the screen like a movie and start analyzing the content in real time. The next step on the ladder is low-stakes public action. In a virtual setting, active participation doesn't always require a microphone. The chat docs can serve as a primary space for students to engage. You can prompt this by asking students to share a single idea, type one example, or respond with a specific keyword. This simple interaction makes the student feel involved rather than invisible. When they see their own response in the chat, they are more likely to stay focused on the next part of the lesson. On the third rung, we move to applied individual effort. This involves adding short activities directly into the lesson flow. These aren't long assignments, they are microtasks, like solving a single problem or writing one sentence that summarizes the current topic. Immediate application helps students test their own understanding. It provides instant feedback on whether they actually grasp the concept before the class moves on. The top of the ladder is social collaboration. This is where students begin to learn from each other, not just the teacher. You can ask them to compare their answers, share different opinions, or review a peer's idea. Exchanging ideas with classmates lowers the social barrier of participation. When students see their peers contributing, they are more likely to offer their own thoughts, which increases the overall level of activity in the room. This shifts the classroom dynamic. It moves from a one-directional broadcast into a collaborative network where students are actively building their knowledge together. These results do not require expensive software or high-end tools. These improvements come from intentional adjustments to how you interact with your students. It starts with 4 steps: ask more questions, use the chat space, add short tasks, and encourage peer interaction. The focus moves towards ensuring students are processing material as it is presented. Instead of just attending a class, they are engaging with it. When students participate throughout the lesson, they are more likely to remember the concepts later. By incorporating these micro-actions, you turn a digital meeting into a space where students actually build their understanding.